Good morning, my students. I hope all of you are well. As I told you that I would take only this week as a revision week, and for all those chapters which we have already done in the classes, and I already mentioned that chapter from 8 to 12 is completely done in the classes, and you will find them on page 232 to 392. So it's done, and we are in this week we were revising all these chapters. So today is going to be the last chapter from the covered material, that is chapter 12, the age of Jackson. So this is the last lesson of the covered material, and from next week we are going to begin new lessons. So it is my request to all of you that memorize as much possible in this week, so from the next week we can start new lessons. Okay, so here we go. Here it's moving. Okay, so Andrew Jackson, basically in this chapter you have learnt about the presidency of Andrew Jackson and what was the policy of Jackson towards Native Americans, and we also we have learned about an era of prosperity and panic during his presidency. A few important terms. First, I have collected few important terms. We revise them, and the rest you will study in your books. So Andrew Jackson, first you should know who was Andrew Jackson. He was a military hero, and he was the 7th president of United States. Then there's a term, states' right. What does it mean? It means the rights of the states to make decisions without interference from the federal government. Then we also read about a doctrine of nullification. What was doctrine of nullification? It was an idea that a state had the right to nullify or reject a federal law that it considers unconstitutional. And you can read it in detail in your books, because we have I had already explained it in great detail when I was taking your class. Now the next term is Panic of 1837. So what was Panic of 1837? It was a widespread fear about the state of the economy that spread after Van Buren took office. And at the end, the term I have selected is Trial of Tears. What was Trial of Tears? Trial of Tears was basically it was a journey that the Cherokee, it was a tribe, the Cherokee. In this journey, the Cherokee, they were forced to travel from Georgia to Indian Territory. So this journey was known as Trial of Tears. Okay, so the first term, the first topic we will revise today is what led to the formation of the Democratic Republican Party. Okay, so in this first you should know what is Democratic Republican Party. So Andrew Jackson, he was as we know, he was a hero from the War of 1812. So he ran for presidency in 1824 against John Quincy Adams. And who was John Quincy Adams? He was a candidate in 1824 presidential candidate favored by New Englanders. Okay, so he was favored by the New Englanders. Okay, so neither what happened during election, neither candidate received a majority of electoral votes, and the House of Representatives had to decide the winner. So the Speaker of the House, Henry Clay, basically he used to dislike Jackson, so he used his influence to help Adams win the election. So what happened that the Jackson's followers, they accused Adams of stealing the election. So finally, Jackson's followers, they formed their own party, and that party was known as the Democratic Republican Party. And for next 4 years, this new party attacked Adams' policies. Okay, next is what was the spoil system, and one more thing about kitchen cabinet. The term kitchen cabinet I will explain also. I will revise that term as well. So what happened that Jackson ran for president again in 1828. So these new voters supported him. With their help, Jackson won the presidency. He was so popular, Jackson was so popular that the crowd of people, they came to Washington for his inauguration. And Jackson wanted common people to have a chance to participate in the government. So once in his office, he removed about 10% of the federal workers from their jobs. So he removed the federal workers because he wanted common people to have a choice to participate in the government. So what he did, he removed 10% of the federal workers and he gave those jobs to his friends and loyal followers. And Jackson's friends also became his advisors, and these advisors were known as his kitchen cabinet. So who were kitchen cabinets? Kitchen cabinets were those friends and loyal followers of Jackson who also became his advisors later. So these advisors were known as his kitchen cabinet. And then what is spoil systems? The practice of incoming political parties of removing old workers and replacing them with their supporter is known as the spoil system. In simple words, you can also say the practice of giving government jobs to political backers is also called spoil systems. Okay, next we have Indian Removal Act in 1830. So what was that? By the early 80s, some Native American groups in the southeast began to take on the culture of their white neighbors. So these tribes, like I already mentioned, the Cherokee here, the Choctaw, Seminole, Creek, and Chickasaw, okay, they were called the 5 civilized tribes by the whites. So many white settlers, they did not wish to live with Native Americans. Instead, they wanted Native Americans' land in the south and west for farms. So one thing, they did not like them, and they also wanted their land. So as a result, President Jackson decided to remove the Native American from their lands. So finally, Congress passed the Indian Removal Act in 1830, and according to this according to this act, or you can say according to this law, it was the order was given that all Native Americans should move west of the Mississippi River. Okay, then I have selected few questions, but these are not the only questions. You have to see other questions and assessment at the end of the chapter too. So few questions like I selected that you should know their answers, that after reading this whole chapter you should be able to answer all these questions, that what political divisions appeared during the election of 1824, and you should be able to describe the political divisions that appeared before and after 1824 election. How did American democracy change during Jackson's presidency? How did economic issue increase sectional tensions? Here's the sectional tensions. What issue were at stake in the debates over state rights? What were the effect of Indian Removal Act? Why did Jackson want Native people move to the West? How did Jackson show his commitment to the common people once in office? And how did Jackson destroy the National Bank? These are the most important questions, but not the only questions. There are so many more which you also have to answer. Okay, at the end, today's task, like always, you have to prepare the assessment of chapter 12. And as I told you that from next week we are going to begin new lessons. So again, it is my request to memorize and learn by heart the most you can do from these chapters. Okay, and so take care of yourself. See you again. Bye bye.